Welcome to On the Go, a podcast about life, leadership, and the Lord. Here are your hosts, J.C. Worley and David Waldroup.
Okay, welcome to the On the Go podcast. It's all about life, leadership, and the Lord.
Let's go.
I'm here with Pastor JC.
Hey-o.
And we are in a series right now. We're counting down. So you need to pause right here if you didn't watch the last episode.
It's true.
Because we're counting down our top 10 leadership failures of all time. Okay? So rather than just giving you a bunch of content, boring.
Who's
we're
listening to
telling
that?
you everything we're real bad at and all the mistakes we've made.
You know, when we were prepping for this season, your failures, you wrote them out so quick.
I got a lot of those bullets in the chamber, my friend.
I had to call a few people, get some help.
Well, when Kimberly showed up, she started really rattling off some things that sent you into a really dark place.
Man, I mean, you were like, hey, we're putting some final touches on this. And that was a few.
And she's like, well, did you talk about the bop and the bop?
And do you remember? Do you remember when you were wearing those jeans and that black shirt?
Yeah. I was like, all right.
Hey, but I love her so much.
She really had a few things, like 10-year-old stories where I was like, oh, shoot, okay.
You know, love keeps no record of wrongs.
Exactly.
She's just got a small little book.
She got a little book. It's not a record. It's a book.
Love her so much.
She's great.
She's so great.
I'm having fun with this.
I wish she was my co-host.
No, you wouldn't want that. She would steal your thunder.
She would.
You would not be the star anymore.
Well, we're Thunder and Lightning.
A little Thunder and Lightning. Which one am I? I still don't know the answer to that. Is that lightning or thunder that you just did?
It's like a pistol.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So here we go.
Here we go.
We've already done numbers 10 and 9. Now, if my calculations are correct, this will be my number 8 failure of all time, and it is.
Wow.
My number 8 failure of all time in leadership is I thought I had to be in charge in order to lead. Okay.
Come on.
Thought I had to be in charge in order to lead. So let me talk about that for a second. I learned this far too late, and now I'm telling our team this, that, hey, one day if your goal is to be a lead pastor, or maybe you're in a business right now, say your goal is to one day be the general manager, or hey, to your children, hey, if one day your goal is to be a parent, you need to be the kind of child, the kind of employee, the kind of staff member that you hope you have on your team one day. And so for me, I came in when we started this organization. Again, I talked about it last week. I was 22 years old when you invited me to move to Maryland with you.
Barely had a beard.
Barely had anything, even armpit hair. I mean, it was like a year or two. I mean, I was a real late bloomer. And so, I came in. And again, of course, when you're 22, you know everything. And so I knew everything.
Fresh out of college.
Oh, man, just
got your lead degree, your Lee University degree.
And I felt like I knew it all.
You just knew it all.
But what I didn't know is that you can lead even when you're not in charge. You can lead from the middle. And it's the way that you, again, embody the values of the organization, especially if you're in a Christian organization like a nonprofit, especially at a church. You can embody Christian biblical values even when you're not the leader.
Right.
You can make an impact. You don't have to be in charge to make a difference. In fact, you are making a difference in your organization, even though you're not the leader. And it might not be a positive difference. Like, you might actually be making the organization a lot more of a negative place, a lot more of a toxic place, an unproductive place. Whatever it is, you are making a difference, having a seat on the bus. Again, we talked about that last episode.
Yeah.
But having a role in the organization, you are making a difference. And so what are you going to do with that? Can you lead without being in charge? Because for us now, you're the senior leader in our organization, and I'm kind of on the right hand there. I'm on our executive team. We're all overseeing a lot of staff.
Yeah.
And so now what I'm looking at is I'm not going to promote anyone to a higher level of leadership when they're not leading right where they're at right now. Because if you need, and it took me so long to learn this. If you need a position in order to make a difference, you're not a leader.
Come on.
That doesn't make you a leader. You need to be able to be an influencer and be the type of person that people want to follow.
Yep.
And then when I spot that in you, I'll give you a leadership position. So if you wait to lead until you're actually in charge, your leader might not ever promote you. So, again, this is a conversation more for those that are not the senior leader in your organization. Maybe you're not the parent in the home, but you can lead even when you're not in charge. And that includes leading up. You know, there have been times, and you've been very gracious with me on this, and I've rarely played this card, but where you've invited me to speak in and to challenge things that we do as an organization, and to even challenge you personally. And I cherish that. I've never taken advantage of that. It's very rare that I would even need to, but there have been times where we have these conversations where you've invited me to help speak into the organization, and it's so honoring to me. And so I think that's something I wish I would have started that early on, because once I started leading staff, then I realized, oh my goodness, yeah, this annoying thing about this staff member, I did this to Pastor JC. So I am now reaping what I sowed, because all of the negativity and all the bad attitudes and all the complaining and the getting overwhelmed and the freaking out when you need to make a change that I complained to you about, now I'm having to do that to these people, and they do that to me. And so it made me learn really quick, man, I wish I would have led even when I wasn't in charge. And so now in hindsight, there's nothing I can do about it, but I'm trying to empower our team to know that you can lead when you're not in charge.
Just one quick thought before I share one of my failures. And there was so much that you said there that's got little nuggets, of truth and wisdom. But I'll just talk to, again, the organizational leader, the young professional, the entrepreneur, the boss. You need people on your team that are not in charge.
Yeah, that's good. Still
leading.
Yeah.
It's really important to empower people that way and to give them opportunities to speak into, the organization or the company or the church or the team. I think that's vital. I mean, I do. I think it's really important. There's an old saying, you got too many chiefs and not enough Indians.
Yeah.
I think you need a lot of team players to accomplish the goal, to accomplish the vision, to move that organization forward. And so, I'm really proud of you leading that way and learning that way. And I do give you an opportunity to speak, into the heart of this house a lot, because I know you love God. It's a big deal. I know you love our family. And I know you love this church, and when you check those boxes, a lot of trust comes with that. And so oftentimes organizational leaders, they don't allow, staff to lead because they don't trust them in that. But you've proven yourself time and time again. So enough about you.
While you pull that one out here, when we'll talk about your failure, it's okay if you're not a leader. You need to know that this is a leadership series. Keep watching. But if you might not ever be in charge because you might not be a leader, and that doesn't make you less valuable. It's okay to be the Indian and not the chief.
I went ahead. Number 8.
Go ahead. Keep moving.
I dropped the vision before I dripped it.
Yeah.
This is a good one. I want you to write that down, because if you grow in your leadership, you will learn that before you make a change or a shift in the organization, that you can drip that vision before you just drop it.
Right.
And so it's kind of, this is silly, but just roll with me. It's kind of like this cup,
I don't need to drink water every 5 seconds.
I like to drink. You're not hydrated.
I feel great.
It's. I can see it. Your skin is so dry.
If I drink water, I'm gonna have to use the bathroom.
No, but you don't even. This is a part of the aesthetics.
No, it's not.
Whatever.
It's yours.
Whatever. If I take this mug and I just drop it, it's gonna shatter everywhere. And a lot of organizational leaders, that's what they do.
Yeah.
They have a vision and they just drop it on everybody, and it's just shock and awe, and everybody's like, "What? Wow,
yeah,
okay."
it's good.
But if I just slowly set it down, then not only is this intact, but so is all of the surroundings. And early on, I'm not batting 1,000 with this, but early on I really struggled with just dropping the vision instead of just slowly letting on what's coming. You know what I mean? I would often just drop the what and never just talk about the why before we got to the what.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'll give you one really silly
but it's relatable to a lot of businesses.
Example. And now in hindsight, I'm like, I should have thought through that.
Right.
So when we came back from Maryland, we say this a lot, but just context, we took over the ministry from Kimberly's dad and mom. They were here 33 years. we have a great facility here at our broadcast campus, 110,000 square feet.
It's a blessing.
We've renovated a lot of that space. Well, when we came back, the tile that was in our main lobby and down the halls, it was having major issues. You know, when they the subcontractors laid that tile, they laid it improperly, and so tile was popping up in some places. Some of it was buckled, and so it became a hazard, like a trip hazard.
Yeah.
So one of my first decisions, one of my very first decisions was rip it all up, and lay down LVT.
Yeah.
Well, obviously that was a need. That wasn't just a cosmetic thing, although cosmetically,
it looks good.
we did enhance the lobby and the facility. But instead of dripping that from one Sunday to the next, the whole thing was done. And man, it caused, I don't want to say chaos, that's kind of an exaggeration, but there were a number of people that were so shook at this massive change, primarily because I just dropped it on them. Instead of, and there was no reason why I didn't, justifiable reason why I didn't tell them in advance. Just in my immaturity as a young leader.
That would be a big deal.
I didn't know what I didn't know. And now I've learned, okay, you know what? These things matter. It's one of the reasons, and again, I know I'm not talking to just pastors, a lot of different listeners with a lot of different leadership responsibilities, but it's one of the reasons that we do an annual Vision Sunday. Because I get to drip vision before we drop vision. And it's a huge win for us to be able to say, okay, here's where we've come from, and also, hey, here's where we're going. And it may take us 6 months. It may take us 6 weeks. It may take us 6 years, but I'm dripping the vision before I drop it. And there is a great danger of doing that in reverse, where you just make change. You just make change to make change. Now, sometimes maybe the organization needs a little bit of shock and awe and that revitalization. But that was a big failure for me early on in my rookie days of a lead pastor and senior leader.
I mean, I get it. It's one of those, you had time to mull over the decision making. You had time. And so I think people don't put themselves in the other people's perspective. You've been thinking about that change for days, weeks, or months, but they heard it all of a sudden. They didn't even hear it. They just saw it happen. So you didn't give them time to process it, even though you took time to process that decision.
This is what we talk about a lot with our executive leadership team, with our directional lead team, all the way down to campus support staff, into our go-teamers, volunteers. At the highest level, and I want our leaders to listen, at the highest level, we're talking about this stuff all day, every day.
Absolutely.
And so it becomes very routine in our language and conversations, because we're always talking about that thing or those things. And we just assume, well, if we know it, everybody knows it.
Everyone must know.
But not everybody knows. Even though we're talking about it, we've got to open up the lines of communication to make sure we're dripping that vision in every layer, in every department. And again, there's context around that, because that may not be every single decision, but I think it's very important to lead with, here's what's coming and here's the why it's coming, and not just talk about it at the highest level and forget about those that are serving, because the real MVPers of Go Church.
It's the volunteers.
It's volunteers.
We can't do it without them.
So I don't want to shock and all them, and then they get frustrated because they feel like, even at our level in a growing organization and church, where they feel like, well, I don't really matter. They're going to make decisions, with or without me. And again, there's context around that, but great leaders, they lead by dripping vision before they just drop it.
That's good. The advantage of dripping it too is you give people a chance to own it. They can own the decision too.
So much buy-in.
There is. Okay, I failed again. Here we go. Here's another failure.
What a weird laugh. Did you hear that laugh?
It was a very sinister laugh there. David's number 7 leadership fail of all time. I reacted far more often than I responded. I reacted far more often than I responded. Here's what I mean by that.
That was a great toss.
It was like it levitated just
it was
slowly.
a great toss.
React versus respond. Reactionary leadership, reactionary decision making. It happens in a moment,
It does.
right? So there are two ways that I think I missed it in this. So it's two types. This is like failure 7A and 7B, right? So I reacted from a strategical standpoint and from an emotional standpoint very often in my early leadership days.
Last week.
So yeah, like whenever I was walking here with you. So from a strategic standpoint, you can be reactionary if you're like me, and I think you're actually probably wired the same way. I love getting things done.
Oh, yeah.
I want a solution. I want things off my list. I don't want that noise in my brain. I don't want it weighing down my list. I like to get it over with. So I was very reactionary early on where, okay, there's a problem. What's the quickest solution? Who's got a good solution? That sounds good. Let's do that. And then, surprisingly, it didn't always work very well. So
No.
I didn't take time to think, pray, honestly, like sleep. Sometimes sleeping can just give you a refreshed perspective, asking for other feedback and opinions. Not every decision has to be made in a moment. Now, there's another leadership conversation we can get into about sometimes you got to make real-time decisions, but not every decision is that urgent. Even though it might be annoying that you have to wait another week to make the decision and to hear back from the person that you're asking for feedback from, but it'll protect you from a strategic standpoint.
Amen.
The other way I missed it when I reacted instead of responding was from an emotional standpoint. I'm the kind of person where I really like empathy has never been something I really struggle with. Like I really take on people's pain. Like I feel it. When someone's hurting, I feel it for them. And so there have been seasons in my leadership, especially in Go Church over the last 12-ish years, where I have just swung way too far because I was emotional with them. And I was like, they're hurting. They need answers. They need solutions. And man, in my response, I mean, I would swing way past my identity. Sure. Like, I mean, and gosh, 2020 was like the epitome of this for me. I mean, my pendulum of my political ideologies, my theological, beliefs, like everything for me, everyone I talked to was hurting. And that's just kind of never happened, at least in my lifetime, where there's always someone in your church, or your organization or your family that's probably hurting. But it's never been where everyone's hurting always. And so, man, I was just with every conversation, this person feels this way. So I'm going to post this to support them. And then this person feels this way. So I'm going to post to support them. And I was reacting. I wasn't responding. I wasn't taking time. And again, hopefully if you're watching this, you have a relationship with Jesus. If not, you got to get one.
Yeah.
Because if you only knew what it was like to just rest in his word and have an anchor in those unsettling times, I finally dug down. It's when I deleted social media, which that's a whole nother conversation.
Sure.
And I dug deeper into.
That wasn't a failure. That was a win.
That was a win. I mean, we'll talk about that one day too. But I dug deeper into, I just want to respond biblically. From now on, I do not want to go with my emotions.
Yeah.
I want to respond biblically. So
let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
I want to ask you a question, and then I'm going to give a thought to give you time to answer the question.
Okay.
Because we've got listeners who are leaders.
Yeah.
Let's say that some of these leaders have people on their team that are reactionary in their responses. They're emotional team people.
Yeah.
Okay. What would you say to the leader that have people on their team that are emotional in all of their responses?
Yeah.
That's the question.
That's good.
Then here's a thought while you're getting your thoughts together. In the Bible, James, the half-brother of Jesus, does give us some insight on what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Maybe a little out of context, but it applies.
Sure.
And he says, be quick to listen,
Yeah.
slow to speak, slow to become angry.
That's really good.
And I think for me, a lot of times, because man, if you're a part of a growing organization of any kind, from church to chicken, like you've got to make decisions.
Yeah.
But if I'm not careful, I'm not quick to listen.
Right.
I'm quick to speak. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And James again says, just be really quick to listen, be slow to speak, and then be slow to get to that angry point. Because a lot of times, and I'll talk about this later, but I can get really worked up because I'm a very passionate person. Okay, so giving you time here, what would you say to leaders who have people on their team that are emotional and reactionary?
Yeah, two things. You took one of them right out of my mouth is you need to have, unfortunately, because I know it can be exhausting at times when people are emotional, but you want emotional people on your team because they're passionate. Like, they care. So if you want someone that's just kind of like whatever, they're not probably doing that much. The people on your team that care the most are going to show that they care, but your strength is going to be your weakness. So you need them on your team. And if you are that emotional person on the team, you need to calm down. Like, I don't know what else to tell you. You just need to calm down. I wish I could tell 22-year-old David, bro, calm down. Like, it's okay. I'm so embarrassed, man. Like, and even going through these failures, like, there's some embarrassing moments that we will or will not share as we go through this series, but I'm so embarrassed of how emotional I got about really dumb things.
Oh, I get it.
Really dumb things. So
I'll say one more thought, and this is just the honest truth. Everybody is emotional.
Oh, yeah.
Now, how we manifest those emotions are different, but we're all emotional. And I'm not sure if it's in this episode or in a future one, but I'll talk a little bit about emotional health.
Yeah, it's good.
And
Yeah.
okay, all right. Are we number 7?
Yeah. Number 7. Well. Tell us.
This is it. I get choked up just thinking about it.
Emotional. Drink your water.
Well, it was when I was like, well. I've lacked IQ, I've lacked EQ, and I've lacked SQ. In different seasons. So the IQ is the intellectual health.
Yeah.
The EQ is the emotional health. And then the SQ is the spiritual health. And I can tell you, excuse me, that, in different seasons when I've lacked one of these areas, the way that I've led in that season has been vastly different.
Yeah, hindered.
Especially on the emotional piece. And I'm not saying I'm some great intellect.
No, I get
but I feel like, I'm a student and I'm constantly learning. But my intellectualism is probably the most consistent of any one of these. My emotions vary. And even my spiritual health at times can vary. And a part of that is because when I first started pastoring, and while not everybody is a pastor, I do believe this is true, that anytime you chase a God dream, anytime you're walking in the perfect will of God, the enemy hates that.
For sure.
So when I first started pastoring, which was God's call and assignment for my life, I did not realize how spiritual this was going to be. So the spiritual warfare really got me. And it is like, if you read the Psalms, most of the Psalms written by David, it is like a valley of highs and lows. And so, I've wrestled with that as well. And then the emotional health, when I'm emotionally healthy, my team knows it. Yeah. When I'm emotionally unhealthy, my team knows it. Yeah. And so in different seasons, I've either lacked, IQ, EQ, or SQ, and God forbid it's a season where I lack all three. Yeah. Or you could really enter into a place of darkness and even depression and whatnot. But this has been a big one for me. I look at decisions I've made, conversations I've had, and when I've lacked one of these, the outcome has typically not been fruitful.
So what pulls you out of that?
Healthy? Well, I think one, you've got to be certainly in a personal and growing relationship with Jesus Christ. Yeah. And I'm not just saying spiritual disciplines and spiritual practices and pray your way through or read the Bible, but those practices certainly do need to be a part of a rhythm, and responsibility, not to stay just sitting in that season of being low. Yeah. And that's a big piece. I also think you got to have some accountability. Yeah, you got to have some people in your life, because sometimes I didn't mean to point at you like you.
Yeah, well, I'll take it.
No, but sometimes we have blind spots.
Of course.
And I don't see it because it's a blind spot.
Right.
So it's not like every time I've lacked IQ, EQ, or SQ, I've realized it. Yeah. But I've got people in my life that love me enough and believe in me enough to say, hey, like, I'm kind of worried about you. Even now I've got, and we talk about it a lot, but I've got 3 guys in my life, Jeremy, Kyle, and Jason. And these guys, they love me enough to check in on me, to check in on my emotional health, my spiritual health. Are you reading the Bible? How's your family doing? How's your mind? How's your heart? And when I'm vulnerable enough to share with them, then iron sharpens iron.
Good.
So I do think certainly, the the spiritual disciplines is a big piece, and then having accountability with people that love you and can see something that's off in you and call you back to a place of alignment, or to push you towards what's next.
Yeah.
But leaders, if you lack these, you can't be surprised at the outcome of decisions that you're making. It's
good.
The end result is going to show up with evidence of, I made a decision when I was emotionally unhealthy.
Yeah.
And I will say this, I think you are as only spiritually healthy as you are emotionally healthy.
Sure.
Those two are certainly connected. Yeah. How do you throw these?
Just kind of give it a little flick of the wrist.
Flick of the wrist.
Yeah, that's great.
No, not too bad.
Great.
I really wanted it to go right into the camera. Wouldn't that have been awesome?
That would have been cool. Yeah, if we got our 3D glasses.
Are we doing good on time? We're
doing good. Let's get one more. One more each.
One more each?
I want to go one more each.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel good. Number 6. David's number 6. I undermined my credibility with self-deprecation.
Dude.
Undermined my credibility with self-deprecation. Somewhere my wife is watching this.
I know she is.
Saying amen.
And had you not written this one,
yeah, you would have said this is
I was
going to
write it for you.
Yeah.
Maybe not number 1, but I would have put it in your top 5. You left it outside of top 5?
I did. I don't know why. Frankly, just probably it was randomized.
Well, that was another fail.
Let's add number 11. Let's chalk it up. Yeah, so let's talk about this here. I undermined my credibility with self-deprecation. There are 2 kinds of self-deprecation that I think I was guilty of. And I frankly still am sometimes. I think most of the time, it's actually really funny when people make fun of themselves. I actually really laugh at that. I think it's funny. And 80% of what I'm going to share today is me honestly, literally just joking. You've known me for a long time.
Yeah.
I'm not an insecure person. I'm a really just confident person.
No.
I mean, I don't feel like I'm arrogant, but I'm confident in who God made me to be. But I just really think it's hilarious to make fun of myself. Like, I'm not even doing it because I want compliments. I just think it's funny. But there are some people that just don't get the joke, and they really think that I think I'm an idiot. Mm-hmm. And so my wife constantly, like, I'll ask her, hey, how did I do on my message today? She'll be like, why do you have to tell stories that make you look like an idiot? And I'm like, because it's hilarious. And she's like, but only a few people even know that you're joking. And I'm like, well, I know I'm joking, and I think it's hilarious. But she really... she doesn't like it because she's like, babe, you need people to know that you're a deeper person than you portray yourself to be. Like, so I've had to safeguard myself from, there are times where there's an illustration I could tell where I'm the butt of the joke, but I don't tell it and I move on because, again, to me it's funny, but I'm undermining my credibility. The other way that you can undermine your credibility is by, I did this early on. And now I'm seeing it in some people I lead. But early on, again, I was 22 when we started Go Church. I started working in churches. When I was 18, I started interning. And then, I've never not worked at a church. So early on in leadership.
You were a model.
I was a model at Hollister.
For Hollister.
But that was just what they call us. It was nothing.
Can we Google that?
No one took pictures of me. Okay, so that I was aware of at least. Not that I knew of. Anyways, I digress. There's another way you can be self-deprecating. It's not with jokes. It's actually like when you're young in leadership or when you're in a new role or whatever the role might be. You can constantly apologize for not being old enough or experienced enough or wise enough or whatever it is. And it's like, hey guys, I'm going to lead this meeting. Now listen, I'm sorry. I know I'm new here. I know it's my first time. I know I've never done this role before. I know I'm inexperienced. And it's like, dude, I wish I could go back and tell myself, stop apologizing for your experience. You're in the role. You've got the role now. You're undermining your credibility by constantly reminding people that you're not good enough and you're not smart enough. Let
me say this real quick, and I won't say their name, but we have a staff person right now that's wrestling with that.
Yeah.
And stop.
Yeah, stop.
As I'll say this as the leader, when someone constantly apologizes for whatever that is repeatedly, it does begin to make me second guess.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, did I miss something? Because everybody that I've ever hired, I've hired because I believe that they can do the job.
Yeah.
And they can grow in that calling. So when somebody is constantly putting themselves down and apologizing for all of their inadequacies, it makes me think, well, did Did I miss something?
Are you really? You're not that good? I thought you were awesome. But you're telling me you're not that great.
Especially when you're apologizing for stuff that I thought was a win.
Yeah.
That makes me...
I love that you're young. I love that you don't have bad habits. You're inexperienced, but I think it's a clean slate. Right?
Yeah.
I want to say this so bad. We're going to go a little bit over. We try to stay under 30 minutes, but who cares?
Yeah.
I've always wanted to say this, like in a platform, and now
this is your moment.
Now is my moment, because it's never really fit into a sermon unless I preach to the teenagers. If you're single out there, okay, so we've talked about leadership. Let me talk to you if you're single out there. For the love, let me talk to all of the Christian boys and guys out there. You're missing it, because you and I both know this. You don't have to be that good looking or rich or
look at us.
Like look at who we landed.
Look at who we married.
The bar is so low for Christian guys. It's so low. But Christian guys, let me tell you why girls are
Let me tell you something.
Let me tell you. This is why girls are probably dumping you, is because you're so desperate and lacking confidence. And it is the most, you talked about it from a leader to an employee, like, no girl wants to hear how pathetic you think you are and how much of a failure. It's the most unattractive thing to a girl ever. So this is absolutely free. Maybe one day we do a series about dating and marriage and all that stuff. But for right now, Christian guys, for the love, you don't have to apologize for anything. Like, just be confident, because a lack of confidence is the most unattractive thing to a girl. Now, don't be arrogant and a narcissist, but my goodness.
Well, there is to your point, a little bit of a tension there and a balance, because, for example, I would rather you put yourself down than walk into a room and put everybody else down.
Yeah, but why do you have to put anyone down?
But why do you have to put anybody down? Exactly. Yeah. So I tell Lake too, you were talking about the confidence. I mean, Lake, our son, is 15. And Kimberly and I are so proud of him. He's 15. But I tell Lake, because he's trying to figure it all out. I mean, he's a teenager and everything is new. Right. But I'm like, Lake, don't be arrogant, but you've got to be confident.
Got to be confident.
So like if you put on a pair of shoes or you put on an outfit, you can only pull that thing off if you are confident.
Yeah, you're wearing a red tracksuit right now. And I will tell you, if I wore a red tracksuit, I would not be confident. I couldn't do it.
Well, before you brought it up, I was confident.
No, I brought it up because I couldn't do it, man. Like I don't.
Also, I'm colorblind. I thought it was gray.
You telling me this is red?
You telling me this is red?
Oh, man.
Wow. Okay. One more?
One more. Do it.
All right.
Close us out for today.
Let's make sure I got it. What number should we be on?
I don't know.
Sace. Oh, man. This is kind of an interesting one to end on.
I want it.
But we'll just land the plane and then we'll pick it up in the next episode. But I struggle to find the right payroll philosophy.
Yeah, do it. Let's hit it.
Yeah, I can hit it. Again, that's kind of a weird one to end on. But here's what I mean by that. When we they're just shutting it down.
Like, nah, don't
Everybody's
keep going.
Like, somebody's like, payroll, quit. I quit.
Well, you mean we don't have a payroll coming through? That's pretty funny.
Actually hilarious.
That is pretty
Carly
funny.
walks out.
Carly's
She's like, I'll show you my payroll philosophy. I don't get paid enough.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that
right there. That's our.
Yeah. We'll just,
walk through it, because there are going to be leaders out there of organizations that are going to benefit from this.
Yeah.
Very practical.
And I think in another episode, we'll talk about hiring and firing.
Yeah, that's a big one.
That's a big one. But I don't know if anybody loves to hire like I love to hire.
Yeah.
I love
Save that one, because we're going to get there.
I just love the energy. The problem is that early on is that as we were adding people to the team, we were getting outside of our skis.
Yeah.
With the ability to compensate competitively. And I remember one time in the car, we were a couple years into, Go Church in Maryland. Kimberly and I had been fundraising for our salary. Right. And we did that for a number of years. As a matter of fact, the whole time we were in Maryland, we fundraised. But a big reason that we were not initially forced to fundraise, but later on forced to fundraise, is because I kept hiring people.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a payroll philosophy.
Wow.
So in my mind, and that this is something, no matter what, if you are a senior leader and you're in charge of budgets and payroll, this is something to think. Do you want a lot of people on the team that you pay a little?
Right.
Or do you want a few people on the team that you pay really well?
That's good.
And so early on, I struggled with this philosophy because I just wanted a lot of people.
Yeah.
Let's just get a lot of people. And everybody got a small piece of the pie.
Right.
The challenge is that the more people you add around your table, the more mouths you have to feed. And there's only so much pie.
Yeah.
That would be, I would love some pie. It honestly made me think about you growing up in a household with all your brothers and how you would hide like
I
hot
used to
pockets.
hide food. Yeah.
You'd hide food.
Yeah, I literally hid
Because
food.
there's only a certain quantity of food.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of mouths to feed. And I think if you're not careful, you'll just hire at a pace or a rate that is unhealthy. And the productivity, even though you have more people, actually goes down versus having less people that are compensated really well.
That are raising up leaders.
To get, the job done or the work done, et cetera. Does that make sense at all?
Yeah, it's great.
So again, I would challenge everybody. Let me say this too, maybe to a pastor or a young business leader. If you think that adding more staff is going to give you less problems,
right,
or create less headaches, and I know this is bleeding into another conversation later, but that's wrong. More staff can create greater challenges.
That's true.
Outside of just payroll and compensation, the lines of communication get more and more challenging and complicated. So if I was starting over, I think I would create a healthier payroll philosophy to say, okay, let me get a few people around me that I can really take care of.
Right.
And let's move this thing forward, including taking care of my family.
Yeah, it's good.
Like including, because again, I hurt us.
Sure.
Instead of, let's just hire them and we can give them a little stipend and we can pay them a little bit and they can do it. And then you look because when you add it all up.
Yeah.
So that's that was an area I struggled with, was the payroll philosophy. Although we've done really better. I mean, I look at Go Church now, we've got a great staff.
Yeah.
A growing staff and relative, for a church, a very large staff, but we compensate well. We have retirement.
Yeah.
We have HSA. It's competitive with PTO and. But how many years did it take us to kind of
for sure
dig our way out of some early challenges because I lacked a really healthy payroll philosophy?
Right. I love it. Hey, and just so you know, I like the tracksuit.
Whatever.
I think you're handsome.
Whatever.
I really do.
I love you.
You look great.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll be back next week. We'll be in number 5 of our leadership
Top
failures.
5?
We're in it's the bottom 5. We're getting to some really bad failures now.
That's true.
So
what are the chances we can fix that TV?
Never happen. I need another generous donation from whoever you are out there. Fix our TV. Hey, thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll see you next week for the On The Go podcast.